I am Lindsay Marin.
And I am Andrea Lauren.
As spiritually awakened individuals, we each knew that we had a big mission to fulfill in this life. It wasn't until fate brought us together that we became truly aware of our own worth, power, and limitless potential.
The story of our coming together will transform you, making you aware of your own abilities to heal yourself, grow your intuition, utilize your divine connections, and instill faith within yourself to create the life of your dreams. Faith brings trust, trust brings clarity, and clarity brings awareness.
I am aware now.
Welcome. I'm Andrea.
And I'm Lindsay. In our last episode, we discussed the universe stepping in and moving you when you aren't moving yourself. On this episode, we are continuing the story of our meeting and everything that's happened since then on this crazy spiritual roller coaster we're on. And we are going to share the next steps of our spiritual journey after we had these crazy shakeups that we talked about in last episode. When you are doing a lot of things at once, like trying to make things happen in your life, and also connecting with spirit and asking for help, there's this, I guess, this tendency to want to keep asking and not taking the time to receive the guidance. So that's kind of what we're going to discuss today. How did this play out for us in our story?
Well, for us, we both, collectively, but within our own worlds, we're going through situations, whether it was within, internally or within relationships, or within our outer, the outer intimate parts of like our community. I was. But so there were things that we were going through and that I was trying to change and work on, or I had my own perceived notions of what it looked like to make these changes and how to go about them. And I kept trying and trying and pushing and pushing and putting in the work, and I wasn't really getting anywhere. Um, I it, I kept hitting like roadblocks. So wouldn't that be what you would call them? Almost.
Roadblocks. Yeah, it's almost like, well, for me, this was after we moved and we moved in with my in-laws for a little while. And during that time, I really thought I was going to, I was still so stressed out about the move. Like that stayed with me for a while. And it was like, it was emotionally exhausting. It was exhausting to cram all of my things into like one tiny bedroom I was staying in. And it was like a letting go process. And at the same time, I felt like, okay, well, I don't have a lot of worries. I can rest now. And like in the physical realm, I can rest. I don't have as much to do. But really, without having my own routine, my own schedule, living under someone else's roof, it was a whole different story. And for me, I had been really working hard to build up myself with doing healing sessions. And also, I had been doing spirituality workshops. And it was really like when this move started, when there was packing and everything that was like purging, all that stuff, I had to put all of that on hold. And I kept thinking, okay, this will start back up once I'm settled. But then it didn't. I didn't have the motivation. I wasn't getting the same opportunities. I was not having anybody book me for healing sessions. And I was like, what is going on? Like, what am I doing wrong? Basically. Did you feel like that
Right.
too?
I did. I think mine was a little bit on the opposite, like on the other end of the spectrum, which is, it's typical for us. But
Yeah.
um, I was going through large shakeups within some of my most intimate relationships, including my interpersonal relationship with myself. And I found myself at a place where I kept going about it and using the same patterns and ways of thinking and being that I've always done, and it just was not working. But it wasn't clear to me at that time that that wasn't working for me, because I was still identifying with those patterns and beliefs as myself, as like the way to go about and do things. But yet there was no solutions coming forward for me to make changes to move out of the state that I was in.
Mhm.
So um, that is where I found myself saying, I need to just get away. I need to just get away. And that was my period where I was like, okay, I need to rest. I need to step back, which was huge for me because I never at that point in time I've never left my kids or my husband. Like I wouldn't necessarily always do that, but I took a big leap of faith on that one. And you were in the same boat. You didn't really like leave your kids or like step away from the home
Mhm.
in that sense. Like I
Not for a
guess
trip, not for like something to nourish myself.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I came up with this grand idea
Mhm.
to book a trip to go see the dark skies up in northern Pennsylvania, like northern western Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And um it was a pretty big trip. I would say for me it was like almost 5 hours away from where I lived.
Mhm.
And um I called Lindsay and asked Lindsay if she would want to go with me. Um,
I think at first I thought you were crazy because we had only been friends. We had been friends for a year. We had only hung out maybe twice
twice.
in
Yeah, I think
person.
like twice.
But
Yeah.
we just the moment we met, we hit it off and we just I remember being like, if it was like 2 days I hadn't talked to you, I was like, there's something's not right. Where are you? You know?
Yeah.
So and
Yeah.
we like live 2.5 hours away from each other, but we really hit it off right away and kept in contact. So it was like a weird thing because we were really close on a spiritual level, closer than I think I've ever been with anybody. And it happened so fast. But at the same time, we didn't really spend time together yet. So taking this trip on me, was like miss always have her guard up. I was like, it took me a while to like warm up to you in the physical reality, but I took a leap of faith. I was like, I'm just sitting here at my in-laws' house. Maybe I should go with you. And it was like hard. It was hard and it was outside of my comfort zone to leave that feeling of I want to like control and I want to stay, I want to do things my way with my kids and make sure everything's taken care of the way I want. But I kind of let that go and said, I need some time away too. So well, what happened? We did not go see Dark Skies
We did
because
not. We
yeah. But
the
that's
weather.
one of the most beautiful things. And eventually we will get back to the story about how we eventually did see the dark skies. But the weather was not cooperating. And so we changed the trip last minute and we decided to go to Lilydale, New York, which, if you don't know about it, it's a spiritualist community. So they have spiritualist churches. It's kind of, was it a gated community? Like I think in the summer it's gated. You have to like pay to get in.
Yes, it is a gated community. I was
Yeah.
thinking, no, you just go down that road. But when you get right to like the little center hub of
Yeah.
Lilydale, it is
It's its
gated.
own little
But
village. Yeah, and it's
yeah,
all mediums, psychic mediums, and you can go and get readings done. You can walk through the enchanted forest, and they do all kinds of like ceremonies and everything, and it's really cool. But we went off season, so it was actually really quiet, which was also nice.
right.
And yeah, so that was our
And
time away. Good.
yeah. Well, I was just gonna touch on really quickly the synchronicity at play, even for us within that time. The reason we didn't go see the dark skies was because of the weather. We had gotten all the way up to, well, I think it was like 3 days before we were about to
Yeah, it
leave,
was
4 days.
close.
And I checked the weather and I was like, rain, rain, rain. My thoughts like, oh no. But I know for me, I was like, the stress was getting worse, with everything that I was going through, even with you, I believe. And that's when you had said, you were like, have you ever heard of Lilydale? And I'm like, no. And then Lindsay explained it to me. I was like, I don't care where we go. We just
Yeah.
need to get away. Like we just need to get out and get away and go from there.
We took the trip, we drove, we met up halfway, and oh my God, do you remember the drive up there? We were driving separately, but I think we were messaging each other because it was fall and this was October. Was it October?
Yes.
2019, and the leaves where we live, well, where both of us, where she's in Maryland, where I'm in Pennsylvania, the leaves hadn't changed yet. But when we were driving, we were cutting through mountains where the leaves were changing color. And this is an area where people come from like around the country to see the change. They call it, is that what they call it? They call it the change. I didn't know this, but people come from all over to experience this. And it's the trees are all different colors all at once. And it was so beautiful. And
Yeah.
just the
It was
drive up,
breathtaking.
yeah, even before we met
And
up with each other was gorgeous. And it was just so uh, like it felt so good.
yeah. And then I know for me, like with the route that I was, like the way I was coming was, it was, I mean, it was mountains like everywhere, but there were, it was like, you felt like you were in a canyon because it was like
Yeah.
driving along like on cliffs,
Mhm.
and then out in front of you was like these mountains with valleys and the water
Right.
was down there,
Yeah.
and the mountains would like
Islands.
crisscross. And
There were islands.
yes, no,
Right.
it was like they looked like islands,
They were
right?
like little
So it was
islands.
like
They were like rocks.
little like island mounds, like so they were mini mountains, mini
Yeah.
hills. Um and they were, the valley would like go around them, and then there were more in the back. I mean, it was absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
I know for me that was vital in preparing myself to be vulnerable and allow myself to relax and have
Right.
fun,
Same.
because
That was the
yeah, it was like,
unwind. That was the
yes,
unwind. And we did that by
yeah.
ourselves. And that worked out really well because we met up halfway. And I remember thinking, like, I'm satisfied with just with just this driving for 3 hours by myself because I feel great now. I'm like, I could go home.
Right, and that's when I first left, I spent the first, I'd say, hour yeah, about like the first hour
Yeah.
stressing out,
Mhm. Right.
going through an array of lower vibrational emotions. Should I turn back around? Should I go home? I felt really like um lonely. I started feeling abandonment. I started feel like all these things, and I'm like, this is supposed to be fun. Like, why am I going through this, just like leaving my family? Um uh and then when I started to experience that, that is when I stepped into this childlike wonder. And I couldn't tell you the last time that I had experienced that in my life.
Yeah.
It had been so long that since I had experienced that. So that opened me up to be vulnerable, be present, be in the moment.
Hmm.
And then we met up, and then we went to Lilydale.
Hmm. Yeah. And we stayed,
And
I think, 3 days total.
mhm,
Right. Yeah. And we each had a reading done. We we walked through the woods. We checked out the spiritualist shop and the library, the spiritualist library that was just full
oh yeah,
of old spiritualist books. That was
like
so cool.
really old.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
so
that
cool.
town is like 1800, 1700s.
I don't remember, but it was, yeah, it's an older
It
town. Yeah,
was
and
really,
the houses were all older, and yeah, it was a weird feel. Everybody knew each other. And
mhm.
but it was so cool to like we were just really like stepped out of the day-to-day life for a little bit And
Mhm.
it was just time for us to be in spirit, if that makes sense, like to sit in it. Because I feel like until I met Andrea, I would meet somebody um who would kind of be on this same path, and I could like have a banter with them, and then it would kind of like phase out. But from the moment I met Andrea, it was like a two-way street always. We always had something to discover together, and we constantly were empowering each other and digging at each other to help each other grow. And when we got together, and it was finally just, I think the only other times we had gotten together was with kids. So when we finally had time, just us able to talk, I was just so excited that I just got to be myself for a weekend. And that was talking energy, talking energy, talking spirit
Yeah.
all weekend. And I was like,
Yeah.
this is the best feeling ever. But I didn't think that it was something that was like allowed to stick because of society. I was just like, then I have to go back to the real world after that. I don't get to take this with me. So I really didn't realize that at the time that you could stay in that state of energy talk, and that like that was the real me. And that's what I had been missing. And I kind of didn't realize that until I got home. And like looking back, I was like, oh my God, I got to be my true self for a whole weekend. And that felt great. Um,
Yeah, I felt like the same way. I mean, um my best friend was or is um was going along the spiritual awakening journey with me, but it was the only person that I had to talk about. And at this point I still wasn't, openly doing readings and so on and so forth. So I was able to sit back and be myself as well. And the peculiar part of this for me is how the amount of clarity that I received after that trip, like driving home.
right.
We didn't talk about anything in that nature. We
Hmm.
really stayed in a space of childlike wonder and
Right.
energy
Yeah. We were just
because
playful. We
mhm,
discovered together.
yeah,
Right.
we like Lindsay was saying, we walked through the woods. Well, we found ourselves a fairy glen, and
Yeah.
I was like, "It's fairy glen," and Lindsay's like, "Where?" And I'm like, "It's right there,
you were
but we're
so
not allowed to touch it. We
you
can't go
were
over there."
so excited, and you
I
like
was. I was so excited.
for those of you who don't know, Andrea is very easily excitable, and she will scare the crap out of you when she sees something very exciting to her. And she's like, oh, and then there's me, and I'm like, what is it? What is it? And she's like, it's a fairy glen. And I look over and I'm like, it's a bunch of trees. And I'm like expecting to see something. And I was like, yeah, yeah, I see that. I feel that too.
Well, yeah, and so I could see that, like I could see the energy of it, and then I could hear the fairies, and
Yeah.
so um
Hmm. I just
and so I was
pretended.
able.
I just
But she
pretended.
felt it. You felt it because you were
I did.
like,
Well, I had to really try, but mostly that was because I was still like not comfortable doing my work with people. Like I wasn't as
right,
comfortable using my intuition around other people,
at that
honestly.
point in time.
Yeah.
But she was like, "What? Where?" Although she looked right at it, like she's like, and I'm like, "Right there." So that was really fun, and it was good. I that in my normal day to day, I would not get excited like that. It was like so for
Mhm.
me to see that and to be able to be that open and in that way with you, which comes so natural for
Mm.
me to be that way with you,
Yeah,
from the start,
totally.
which was surprising to me as well. But
Mhm.
it also, I mean, well, Cherry Springs was the place we were going to see the dark skies, and that's
Mhm.
not far from. where Lilydale from where we were. So it was still raining, and
Yeah,
we
it
played in
was
the
raining
rain.
the
Like,
whole weekend. It rained the whole
yeah,
weekend, which I think now at this point in our journey, rain, and this is for other people too, rain does symbolize a cleansing. And it seems like every time we have
clearing
something
away.
big happen, we'll have a big rainstorm the next day. And it always feels really good. It's like this is downtime and this is cleansing. It's wet washing it all, washing the energy away. And it rained the whole time we were there. And we geared up. We had our rain boots, we had our raincoats, and and umbrellas and everything. And it rained the entire time. But it was like it was okay because it just felt like downtime. It felt like cozy downtime. Like, do you,
Yeah,
yeah.
we just bought rain boots. Well, Lindsay bought us rain boots. I'm like, we just got new rain boots. That's a
See,
sign.
easily excitable.
So, um,
But anyway, but I think the whole point of this is that we both were like pushing, trudging through life and getting to a lot of like what you were saying in the beginning, like roadblocks, stagnation. Like I was feeling very stagnant, like nothing was happening for me anymore. Even though I felt like I had more time to make things happen, it just wasn't lining up. And it was like, I'm putting myself out there, I'm putting the energy out there. Why is nothing happening? And really, what happens is, um, and well, you can explain your quote that you have to kind of go
oh
with
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
You want to go into that?
The quote that Lindsay was referring to was one I came across, and it talks about when you are asking for something that you desire to bring into your life, to bring into your awareness, or to manifest for yourself, you only have to ask the universe for that once.
Once.
When you continue to ask over and over and over, a good example would be, what's a good example of that? Like, let's say you really want this job, and you're like, I really, really want to get this job. I really want to get this job. And every day you're like, am I going to get this job? Like, I really need this job. The
And
universe
like,
does not
please,
need,
please begging, like, please
right?
give me this
The
job.
universe does not need reminders. You ask once.
Right.
And once you ask, you allow yourself to move into a state of receiving.
Mm-hmm.
And for both you and I, before taking this trip, we were in a constant state of asking
Mm-hmm.
or contemplating and staying in that role of, when is it going to be my time? When is it going to
Mm-hmm.
be? When am I going to get answers on this? When am I going to do? Whatever
Right.
it was. Um,
We didn't
and so,
realize that we were not allowing the time for the universe to step in with the guidance. We weren't really allowing the time to reconnect with our true nature in a way that made us become present and then able to receive the guidance and the next
right,
steps we needed.
yeah, because when you ask the universe for what you need, and then you transition from this state of asking to the state of receiving. And when
Mhm,
you're in the state of receiving, you are in your present moment and you're finding happiness and joy with where you're at in your moment right here, right now.
mhm,
And by doing that, it's as though you're walking on this path, grounded, centered. You're staying in happiness, joy, peace, and everything that you're asking or that you have asked the universe for, source, so on and so forth, it comes to you on this path of receiving. It's like, oh, here, thank you. Oh, here, oh, thank you. And
mhm,
you keep going along this path. But if you're asking, what are you doing? When you ask for, or when you need directions, you stop. I'm gonna stop and ask for directions. When you have to
mhm,
go to the bathroom, I'm gonna stop and go to the bathroom. You're always stopping, so you can't move forward. But when you're in a
mhm,
state of receiving, you're just, oh, look at that, check that out.
mhm. When you continuously ask, you're taking yourself out of faith. And faith comes with that childlike wonder. Faith comes with the belief that I only have to
No.
ask one time and I am going to be heard and I am going to be fulfilled in the way that is for my highest good, whatever that may look like. So I feel like it's also when you do keep asking, it's because you keep questioning whether or not it's going to come to fruition for you. And that's not faith.
Right.
So you lose it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
I think
So,
so.
yeah, where were you going with that?
I was just going to say, so for us, when we were in Lilydale, it was the first time that both Lindsay and I chose ourselves first. It was the first time
Mhm.
that we had chosen self care. It was the
Yeah.
first time that we had allowed ourselves to be vulnerable enough to set aside the responsibilities of our life, our hurdles, our problems, the stagnation, and go and find joy. Find that childlike wonder,
In our
play, have
truest
fun.
form. Because I can
Right.
say, I've taken trips, I've taken, gone away here and there, but mine were always like party weekends. And it's like, yes, that was a good break, but I feel worse than when I started. But it was nice to have a break and to just not care. But I've never had a break where I got to just be myself, my true, authentic essence. And that was more nourishing than anything I've ever experienced. And so much clarity came after it. And for me, the clarity was that I just needed to allow the waiting period of things to unfold again when it was time, because I was in a state of transition and I needed to just bunker down for a little bit and be present and not be trying. Trying was not, it wasn't time for that. It was time to just focus on life, focus on inner work instead of
Right.
everything outside of myself, which I had been
Right.
doing. Yeah.
And for me, I received like monumental clarity
Mhm.
in regards to issues within intimate relationships, like family relationships, like with my kids,
Mhm.
my husband, my household, like all of that. Um, that was it was a game changer for me. It was
Mhm.
exactly what I needed to hear. And once applying that, like after going through that experience, my path started moving forward
Mhm.
even
Mine
more.
too. Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the coolest things that we both experienced while there was that we both got readings done by a medium. And if you know Andrea, she is an amazingly talented spirit council medium. And I can't talk her up enough. Her work as a medium is like, I've never seen anything like this before. So we went and got readings from another very talented medium. But we both were like very afterwards, we both kind of like afterwards were, so when you get a reading, you get all this information, you really take it to heart, take it to consideration. And it was interesting because probably about an hour after we each had our readings done and we were going back and forth talking about what we experienced, we both realized that our own intuition was a lot more important than what we were told by this person. And I think that was big for us too. Is very empowering. It kind of like took our power out of someone else's hands to say, like, you know better than me, tell me what to do. And we both kind of took the advice that we were given and said, okay, well, this was good, this was not so good, you know what, scrap that. We like, this is how I feel about this and this is what I'm believing. And it was like, it was really empowering to me, at least. Like, and it was awesome to watch you do that, because I know how talented you are, and I watched you second guess yourself because of what this person told you in
Yeah.
some of the reading.
Yeah.
And we both kind of like turned around and we're like, wait a minute, we we know better than anybody. We like, our filter is going to be different than someone else's filter, as far as messages are concerned. And his filter was like, it was mediocre. I won't name names because he did great, but you know. So it was
He had a couple moments where it was like, remember,
he kept going into a trance.
he did. It was like his eyes rolled back, and I was thinking to myself, do I need to get up and walk? Like, I need to walk out like now?
I remember we were like, should I call? I was like, should I call a doctor? Should I call 911? Because his eyes rolled back in his head and he would just stop talking for a little bit during the reading. And then
Yeah,
he would start back up 20 seconds later, exactly where he left off. Like nothing happened. I'm like, does he know he
yeah.
does this? Is this narcolepsy? I don't know.
But after a couple times though, it's like it was starting to get a little eerie. I was like,
Yeah.
um,
Like, where is he going?
like, I did think to myself once, I was like, do I do that? Like, because like you just,
I haven't seen you do that. You have not done,
because
you have not.
he would pop right back up, like,
Yep. And you'd be right back into it. That was really
oh,
weird.
yeah,
So yeah, we learned a lot about ourselves in that like we both are extremely talented. And I think we weren't giving ourselves as much credit as we should have at the time. But sometimes compare like when you go to seek it out somewhere else and you find like, oh, that really didn't give me that much clarity. You kind of realize like how talented you are, not to toot
yeah,
our own horns or
yeah.
anything, but like toot toot.
Toot, toot. I
So
definitely
anyway,
agree.
all in
But
all,
one thing I do
oh,
want to
go ahead.
add, though,
Yeah.
just real quick, is
Mhm.
because I was thinking about this as you were talking in the beginning,
Yeah.
is a lot of the time when once we ask the question once, the answer already comes, but we're so dead set on it looking or feeling or appearing a certain way that we keep asking.
Mhm.
And the universe is like, I already gave you the answer.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and you might get it like a couple more times because then your guides and your angels and source, they're like, like holding
Mhm.
it up, and you're gonna miss it. So it was kind of like for you and I, even though that was not our primary goal when we went to Lilydale,
Right.
was to get a reading for answers. We were just like, oh, let's, it's the
Yeah, it
land
was
of
just
mediums.
fun and
Let's just get a reading.
mhm.
But by realizing, wow, our intuition is like spot on.
Mhm.
Um, I know for me, there were a couple of the messages that I had received through my intuition after going through that experience, talking with you, that I was like, I got this a long time ago. The
Right.
answer.
Yeah.
So that's another part
But
of
you were
being in that
missing
state
it.
of receiving, is not judging the
Mhm.
outcome. It's
Yeah.
almost like waiting for gifts to come to you. Um, and when you're being presented with a gift, you don't know what it is,
Mhm.
and you're not going to judge it either,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. And being in that state, like I love that. Like being in that state of receiving means that you are open to receiving the message, the guidance, or the healing, whatever it is, in the way that it needs to come to you. Um, like best in the way that it needs to come to you. And I tell people this with my healing work. I always say that you will receive healing, but don't attach yourself to what it might look like because the universe knows better than you do. God knows better than you
Right,
do. And your body knows better
right.
than you do. Your energy field, your higher self knows better than you do how it needs to look. And most times it's going to show up in a completely roundabout way. So it's important to just stay
Totally agree.
open and unattached to outcome. So I really like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, to sum it all up, I mean, it really is about allowing yourself the downtime to receive when you are feeling like things aren't progressing. And it doesn't have to be a trip. It could be a long walk. It could be a hike in the woods. It could be like a long shower. I get so much clarity when I take showers, like long showers where
I
I'm
do
not
too. Yeah.
interrupted by children. I'll come out and
Mine's
I'll
when
like
I'm
write
walking
a
the
whole
dog.
page. What's that?
Mine's when I'm walking the dog.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, it
And I'm
really is.
like, everybody has their.
It's in those moments that we're on autopilot and we're able to be fully present. And that's when clarity and guidance can come in because we're not so busy with trying. It's really
Yeah.
beautiful, but we we don't often give ourselves that time because we're so busy worrying about everything else.
Yep.
Yeah. So give
So even
yourself a
if it's
break,
just a few
people.
minutes, yeah. I know. Try and see if you can start a little, routine or a little ritual for yourself where even if it's just 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, that you can step away, step out of the energy that you're usually around. Like I try to like step outside of my house because
Mhm,
the energy in my house is like a vortex. I don't
mhm.
it is so hard to pull myself out of autopilot and like the swirling of my daily doings, for my mind to really focus and be peaceful. And I think that's why when I'm walking my dog is when I get my clarity.
Yeah.
So however that works for you, even if it's just taking 5-10 minutes to step away, you know,
Yeah.
um, clear your
Step out
mind
of your
and come back
yeah.
so it can come through to you or whatnot.
Yeah.
It's going to pay dividends.
Yeah. You'll feel so much better afterwards because you're going to get those messages that you've been looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
And
there's
then
nothing
applying what you're hearing or
to
taking the time to really
mhm.
allow yourself to sit with it and look at it as though a child would look at something for the first time.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because if you look at something, they're like, oh, do this. It's very easy for our minds to be like, well, I don't think that's going to work. Or no, no, that doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
And then we don't apply it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you want to be careful for that as well.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. So,
Again,
I think
you want to ace life, just be a kid. Like, just have fun. Just stay in childlike wonder and see the world through a child's eyes. Like, you're
I
good to go.
know.
Like, you're
There's
just good to
actually
go.
I'm not like a Bible thumper, but there's a quote in the Bible from Jesus that says, um, it's something like, unless you be as children, you will never enter thy kingdom of heaven. And to me, that means unless you act as a child would, unless you instill yourself with that childlike wonder, you'll never find that peace within, that heaven or um, the peace and oneness within.
Right.
Yeah.
Where
And
you're
that's where we
connected to
all want to
God,
be.
where you're,
Yeah.
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 And that's where it's like, they say heaven on earth.
Hmm. Right. We
Well,
create that
right. Having that
within
connection with
ourselves.
yourself, finding that within yourself.
Hmm.
Um, it's like having that landline. It's like a landline,
Yeah. Yeah.
your connection and what you're getting. And that's bringing that in,
Hmm.
um, and being that joy, that love,
Yeah.
that peace, so on
Yeah.
and so forth. And
Hmm.
that's bringing heaven to earth.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
good one,
So,
sister.
so I think that about wraps it up for today.
Yep.
And we encourage you to take a break and clear your mind and let that guidance come in. Give it a chance at least.
Right.
You'll be really glad you did.
Yes. Yes, you will.
Yes. All right.
And if
Thanks.
you feel the need to reach out, if you have any questions or are curious about different ways to, if it's not something that we had already mentioned, you can
Hmm.
reach out to us, um,
Yeah.
through
Through
our,
social media, through Instagram, Facebook, and we are also on YouTube. Leave us a comment or shoot us an email.
yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you.